What's good, y'all? Andres here.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's RB3.
Sabrina here to talk about First Cut's Patreon. Yes.
That's right. Now you get to be a part of the First Cut community, as well as support us individually, RB3, Sabrina, and I, and get access to exclusive content all at the same time.
First Cut really began with the meaning of podcast. That started with myself and Andres Cabrera way back in 2017.
A little over a year ago, they added me on, and what we really do is just champion diverse voices behind the scenes, in front of the camera.
Since we started our YouTube channel, First Cut to House, our podcast, and we've been growing ever since.
This time last year, we crossed over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and now we're just a few hundred away from hitting 4K.
With access to more monetary resources, we're able to hire another editor, we're able to hire more help, and we're just able to promote the show better in general.
So let's run down exactly what you would get on the First Cut Patreon.
You get access to the First Cut Discord server, and we're really excited to be able to have another platform to engage with you guys, to talk about whatever. We're gonna have so many different channels.
Now, our next tier is going to be our colorist.
Video essays are a promise that we made at the very beginning of First Cut that we never really had the opportunity to live up to until today.
And the next tier is visual effects.
Now, we've always wanted to do movie commentaries here at First Cut, and we finally have the opportunity to do it.
Up next is our sound editor category.
And this tier includes everything from the previous tiers, but also a monthly Patreon exclusive live stream. And the next tier is the post-production supervisor.
We are making this tier our access point for our behind the scenes content.
Next up, we have our composer. You get to be in a virtual hangout with RB3, Sabrina, and I. That means you officially get to hang out with us.
And then, of course, we have the final tier, which is the director.
You could be a part of the First Cut crew occasionally on this tier, where you can actually be a part of some of our episodes. If there's something that you're really passionate about and that you want to talk about with us on the Meaning of Podcast, this is the tier that you want to be at.
We are starting Patreon so we can expand and produce more content for you guys to enjoy.
I'm super excited to see what 2021 has in store for us, which is why this First Cut Patreon is coming. And whatever way you can support, please do. Again, it's patreon.com/firstcutstudios.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh.
What's good? What's up, guys? Welcome back to another First Cut Live. I'm here with the crew, the starting lineup. Sabrina Ramirez, the center, catching all the lobs. You're dunking the ball.
Know what it is.
I see you, girl. How you doing?
Doing really great. I mean, it's been an exciting week. Obviously, us launching our Patreon and working out like a lot of the stuff that we have to do. It's been a blast, so I'm excited for tonight.
And obviously our power forward, the one who is shooting all the threes, getting inside, finishing at the rim. It's Mr. RB3. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's going on? Happy Laker Day. Happy Ashanti versus Keisha Cole versus battle day. That's what's going on. Did Keisha Cole ever show back up? Is there any update? Yeah, I haven't seen. Yeah, so
what side do you want, bro?
I'm always been on side. I feel like Ashanti's kind of being an underdog walking into this. So I'm always rooting for the underdog. But it seems like the opposer's not even showing up. The challenger's not even there. Not even sitting in the chair. They're doing it virtual this time. I don't know what's going on. So
yeah, well, at least the Bucks showed up for the Lakers game, man. They're playing right now. It's a close game, but obviously I'm rooting for the Bucks. Go Bucks. Anyone who played against the Lakers, I'm gonna root for them. But either way, guys, there's a lot to get to. If you've been on Film Twitter at all, you know that there's a lot of delays that are being announced right now. We're gonna get to that. But first off, we're gonna talk about some vampire ladies and Resident Evil. For anyone who, no, I'm kidding. I'm totally messing with you guys. There's a Resident Evil announcement called Resident Evil Village, and everyone's kind of losing their minds. Everyone who is like has a very specific type like me. Vampires. Oh, I'm there. Either way, guys, we're going to talk about all the movie news today. But before we do, I want to just kind of catch up with you guys as far as how are we feeling about this year. You could talk personal if you want, but mainly this year in movies. This year in movies, how are you guys feeling as far as what 2021 is doing?
I mean, you know what? Like looking at this past year, it's kind of interesting to see some people say like, "Oh, we haven't gotten enough for me to even make like a top 10 list." And I definitely push back on that. I think there's been a lot of really great things to explore, but of course, we have a focus on that, and we make sure that we watch a little bit of everything going into award season and just overall in the year in general. Stuff like hidden gems, like Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, or like Netflix's The Old Guard. Things like that. So overall, I think it's been interesting how COVID has definitely affected the industry in all the ways that we've talked about before, but specifically award season right now, because obviously the Oscars have been pushed back. There's a lot of changes in eligibility because streaming services are available now. And there's a lot of really interesting points. And my biggest one, the biggest thing that stands out to me is that, I feel like those Oscar baity films, like something like A Trial of Chicago 7 or things like that, I feel like those aren't even in the conversation nearly as much as something a little bit more interesting. And so that's kind of the positive that I've taken out of all of this. I feel like when we talk about a Nomadland, we talk about Chloe Zhao with that film, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, like Promising Young Woman, those are really picking up kind of like attention when it comes to awards and when it comes to consideration. So that's been a positive for me.
Yeah, Arpitri, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so are we talking about the year 2020 or the year 2021? Because I
was talking 2021, but Sabrina talked 2020. It's all good. It's all the same.
But see, that's the question I asked, because it's kind of what I feel like 2021 is still 2020, like in terms of releases, right? Like these are a lot of the movies that we're looking at in 2021 currently were at least some of the most anticipated movies of 2020, right? And we're actually going to be seeing a lot of that residual effect for like a long time. We're going to be seeing 2020 movies coming out till 2022, honestly. Some are getting pushed back just that far. And I think, but when it comes to the conversation of like, how has it affected like the 2021 landscape of movies? Like there, for one, January has always been like the dumping ground, right? That's usually what's been considered like the dumping ground for like release calendar movies. And recently that's been changed up and switched up a lot. But like, I think what this January has just been exclusively Oscar movies that we would have seen in like December or November, So, in that way, I wonder what the cycle change is going to be like going forward, right? Like, is what we consider the summer blockbuster not going to be in summer anymore? Is it actually going to be September, October? Like based on how, we're like kind of like 3 months behind right now in the way we're kind of looking at a lot of this stuff. So I don't know. That's just kind of what makes me wonder. But I think 2020, despite the closure of the movie theaters and everything that's going down streaming, I still agree with Sabrina. I still think it was a phenomenal year in movies. You just have to look for them in certain places and yeah.
Are we going to see the same thing in 2021 that we saw in 2020? Movies are just going to keep getting delayed and delayed until they probably won't come out?
Well, we've already today gotten so many announcements, obviously like Uncharted, and we've gotten everything, Dune, Spider-Man 3, everything just keeps being pushed back. I don't know when that's going to stop. I think that's going to be hitting for a long time, because when we're in pre-production or production, a lot of that is still getting halted or stretched out. It's been very difficult for a lot of people to work. So that's the thing. I do feel like we're going to see this for a few years going forward.
So do you think that the movies that are set for like maybe October 2021 are going to be pushed to like maybe 2022?
I feel like there's going to be a pushback on something like a Dune. I don't think that if theaters aren't open and it's not safe by October, I don't think we're going to see Dune coming out, even with that whole HBO Max deal. I know Denny's been very vocal about that and other creators. Just with these huge films, I don't want to see it at home, and I don't think like a huge audience wants to see that either.
What do you think, RB3?
Well, first of all, and people, if you want to get in your questions, the robot is on all day. Firstcut.live. Type a link in the description down below. Get your thoughts in on the war season. We're going to be talking about Black Widow in a little bit too, so gear up those questions for that. It's going to be on all day. But in regards to, I think what we're gonna see, like, obviously things that are coming out in October 2021 getting pushed to 2022, things are coming out in 2020, originally coming out in 2022, coming out in 2023. We just, it's like the wild, wild west out there. I think eventually it's going to be like every single weekend we're going to see a big movie coming out from a different studio, or on a different platform, even on that level too, because we talked about the Netflix with the 71 films. And I'm sure going into the future, Warner Brothers is going to be more than excited to double down on their HBO Max like rollout and theater simultaneous thing. It just depends on where other studios are going to be, like Universal or Sony, but and Viacom, that are appearing a little bit more like hesitant to kind of like jump into the streaming thing, or if they have, it hasn't like worked to as much success. So I mean, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about Paramount Plus a little bit today too, and the cancellations that have been going on with a lot of these streaming platforms. But I mean, I think it's vital to kind of understand like how crowded this space is about to be. There's going to be movies in theaters every weekend, movies at home every weekend, and it's just going to be all consumers' choice at that point.
Are we though? I don't know. Are we going to see movies in theaters anymore? Because it seems like the more we see this happen, the more we see these platforms and these streaming services that are kind of taking over. The last straw to drop, and the last drop, or whatever you want to call it, will be Black Widow. If that does move to Disney Plus, which I don't think it will, because I really do feel like they want to make $1 billion off that, and not half that amount. But if that does drop, I think that'll be like signed, sealed, delivered, the end of movie theaters ever, because I just don't see how you can go back necessarily, at least this year, to movie theaters if you're getting all the movies at home. I mean, you still have the HBO Max deal, which is still in play. So,
yeah, but I still think people, I do agree, like, it will be difficult if Disney does decide to make that move. But I also do think people will be ready to, like, when eventually theaters are going to reopen, like, eventually, right? Like, I don't think we're ever going to see all theaters completely shut down ever. Like, it's going to be a slow transitional process to come back. Now, it might be a different experience. I know AMC was doing a whole transition to like fewer seats in the theaters, but like have them like more wider or whatever. So there might be a little bit more of an exclusive experience. But I still think that there will be audiences that are going to be excited to go to theaters either way. And I do think there's not going to be a way for a studio to make an individual product on $1 billion the same way that on a streaming product, in the same way that they could on a theatrically released movie like Black Widow, like any other thing that Disney has lined up. So I think for Disney, it's more than just the box office too. I think with other studios, it's a lot about how much money the movie makes. Like Trolls 2 is a lot about like how much directly got into their hands. But I think with something like a Black Widow or like a big Marvel or a Star Wars thing, it also is a conversation about merchandising, contracts with actors and A-listers and like all this stuff. So I think it'll be a little more complicated for them to pay off, and probably won't be as profitable for them doing it.
But can't they just buy them out?
I mean, they could.
That's what they did with Gal Gadot, and probably every other Warner Brothers actor. That's the big deal.
I mean, but you see what there's some broken relationships now, right? Like Christopher Nolan no longer wants to do his next movie at Warner Brothers. And he's had a great relationship with WB for a super, super long time. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel like Nolan is such a... I don't know.
A flower in the wind.
No, because I feel like people are going to start to change their perspective on Nolan. I think people already did last year, if I'm being honest. I don't know if you guys saw that shift, but we talked about it early on, Sabrina, how we talked about how people were starting to be like, Nolan might not be the best example of like Hollywood and what we need to accomplish. I just don't. I don't know necessarily where we're headed with all these postponements, because I don't see how 2021. I don't know how this is going to change when so much is still surrounded with COVID. I don't know what you think, Sabrina.
Well, I think, and I've kind of mentioned this before, but I think obviously until it is generally safe, because it's not going to be that way for quite a bit, especially in America. But once it's generally safe, I feel like people are going to be more inclined to go out and do things, because we have spent so much time indoors. I think all the like simple pleasures, like being able to go see a movie, just get some popcorn, get some candy. Yeah, it's overpriced. We haven't been doing it for the past year and a half, whatever, by the point when we're able to. So I think people are going to be inclined to see these kinds of like films in theaters, especially like a Black Widow. I feel like that is genuinely a great film to be one of the first to drop in a time where it is safe. And it can totally do that and dominate the box office. Like, we know that. So it would have like no competition when it comes out at that time.
Yeah, but my thing is, are people going to be ready this year? Because we kept saying last year that, end of the year, and probably we're going to say that again this year. Are we going to find a point where end of this year, everything's going to be back to normal? Will it be back to normal enough to go to a movie theater's packed out house with random ass people who you don't know necessarily where they've been or what they do? Because I feel like if half people have vaccinations and shit, and half just don't, because it's not going to be mandatory, then do you want to go out to the movie theater in a packed house?
I mean, it's okay. So I've seen obviously like footage and things like that from like Australia or other countries where they actually have a hold on this thing. And there are people at a club with no masks. It is possible and it will happen eventually. It's just how long is it going to take for us to get there? That's totally up in the air. And obviously I can't say a certain time, but there definitely will be a day that we're finally able to do something without being super worried about our safety 24/7. Obviously everything's still going to be a risk, but hopefully in the next year or so, we can really crack down the vaccine rollout, because they've kind of been failing at that. So that's been a fail. Obviously, our prior administration has not dealt with this properly, and hopefully our current one, our new one, will. Yes. Fingers crossed.
And I think the vaccine rollout is a vaccine rollout is a big part of it. And I also think too, just keeping the normalcy of it, right? Like, I think if there's a way to have a transition of having people go back to the movie theaters in a way that's like safe, like, you can still do the 25% and the 50% capacity or whatever, according to whatever regulations, as long as those theaters are getting that extra check to compensate for the money they're losing, right? So in that way, we can ensure that they will be ready and going back, and business will be going back to usual after this is all over, because they could spend billions and trillions on bailing out Wall Street, bailing out the military, all of these like big industries. But the movie industry is, for one, huge in California, huge in Southern California, huge in Georgia and Atlanta, but it's huge in a lot of places. But also, it's just a big part of what like America is. Like, America's kind of always been, even though it entered the cinema game relatively late, like in terms of like the the early 19 teens is kind of when like U.S. filmmaking really started to become like a thing. But like, even though it entered the game late, it's always been seen as like the predominant thing. Hollywood's always been seen as the predominant thing. And right now it's looking like that's probably not going to be the case for if things don't go right.
Sinister Alec Miller donated $5. Just want to say thank you to the First Cut crew for everything you'll do. I am so excited for everything you all have in the works. Subscribing to the Patreon was a no-brainer, so here's to a great 2021 for you, Ace, Sabrina, and RB3.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, $5 and up, donate, please, if you can, to support the show. And also, if you're not able to support monetarily, just hit the like button. That's all it takes. The more likes we get, literally, it just helps. It helps us get in front of more eyes. Like, it's almost like magic, you click the like and then boom, it's almost like 2 other people pop up. So be sure, hit that like, support the show, and support our Patreon as well. You saw that beautiful commercial at the beginning. Support us, like Sinister Alec Miller is supporting us currently.
Yeah, so my thing, RB3, kind of going back on your comment, is the whole 25% capacity, 30% capacity thing. Do studios really want to do that? Do studios really want to spend the money, do the marketing, to put their movies in a theater to only get 25% capacity for each screening, each showtime? And then from there, the showtimes are so limited, and then within a month's time, they can probably drop their movie on a streaming service, and then they ended up picking up maybe $5 million when they could have made like $100 million. is that worth the investment for studios if I'm saying either way it's going to be 25% capacity at movie theaters?
Well, I mean, I think especially
for studios, right? For theaters, it's worth it, but not for studios.
I mean, I think that's why the studios are doing this whole like day and date, like simultaneous thing, like
for the HBO Max.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that's their way of compensating for that. But I do think too, I think beyond them compensating with the more having it streamed simultaneously, I also do think like with more movies coming out as frequently, you won't need to do like giant, like you won't need to do like how when Avengers came out, they did all of ArcLight and they took the entire 20 screens or whatever and made it Avengers. Yeah. You wouldn't need to do that. You can actually literally probably same way they did Tenet. They ran Tenet for like 5 months back to back. Just have like 16 different screens running like 16 different movies for like a super long time, and then maybe rotate like the oldest one out every week instead of doing, blow out whatever. I don't know. I think there's a way that it could work. I think there's.
But that's not financially. The problem is that doesn't work financially though, right? Because the problem is when it comes to general interest in movies, most movies make 75 to 85% of their money in the first weekend. That's just facts. So even if you do leave it on for 5 months, it's not necessarily going to make any more money. It'll maybe make like 2% more money, but it won't make the sustained amount of money that you think it would be if it's like everyone's watching it every week. That wouldn't be the case though.
Well, no, slow burns can still make money. The thing is like movies,
they don't though.
No, they do. I mean, certain movies do make money. That's literally what happened with Avatar. It didn't open. It opened at $77 million the first weekend. Then it made 75 the next, and then it made 72 the next, and then it just kept rolling and rolling and rolling.
What's the difference between legs and slow burn? Because legs is when a movie sustains its drive versus a movie that's just there and it's just basically collecting dust. I just don't feel like that'll necessarily work because it just never has.
I mean, I just think something that. Oh no, you can.
No, go, Sabrina. Go,
okay.
Go.
I just think something that we're gonna see is obviously when we first talked about the HBO Max Warner Brothers deal, they said that it was gonna be just for a period of time, but I was like, nah, this is just a trial, and they're probably gonna continue it on as long as it's successful. And I do believe that it is gonna be successful over this year, and obviously we'll get into the streaming service drop in a little bit, but I think that's something that we're going to be able to see. I think we're going to have stuff coming out on Netflix. We're going to have like the Manx or all of that, and we're going to see it in a theater as well. So you kind of have that option. If you want to stay home and you want to see it, fine, but you have the option for a theater. I just want these like bigger films, something like a Dune or something like a Black Widow. I do want them to hold off until that's not the case anymore. Obviously, if we get to a point where Dune is going to come out and theaters aren't safe in Los Angeles because Los Angeles has been crazy, then I'm going to have to watch it at home. That's just not the ideal way for me to do it as a film fan. A lot of people watching this are probably the same way, but at least we're getting films. So I do think that this whole at home and theater release simultaneously, I feel like that's something that more people are going to play with in the future.
Yeah, I just don't see that necessarily being financially profitable for most studios because it's going to be like you have the option to do free or you have the option to pay a lot of money, go out and risk your health and safety and see it in a theater. That option is never going to be.
I think a lot.
Yeah, but it's never going to be the same amount.
But I mean,
it's never going to be the same.
It's better than nothing, though. I mean, what do you want? I mean, what?
It is better than nothing. Yeah,
it is. There's no other options that they're going to have at this point.
I agree.
Especially,
it's better than nothing for sure, but it's just not going to. It's not even going to be. It's going to be like 90-10. It's going to be insane, the difference. No, I think out of 10 people, 9 will choose free and 1 will choose go to the theater.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
We're in an echo chamber, man. Like we're all movie fans, bro. Like I'm talking about general people who don't care about movies. See 2 movies a year.
No. Do you know how
like
many
they don't
tweets,
care?
No. You know how many tweets, how many Instagram posts that I see just people posting like the stairways of the halls of the movie theaters and just like
yours, ours.
I love this.
I'm talking about like my mom, bro.
1,000 people liking and retweeting that stuff too. So don't get me started.
I'm talking about like
the movies.
Our parents.
Well, our parents. Okay,
that's what I'm saying though. I'm talking about our parents.
They don't spend money. Our parents' generation is not even a key demographic, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. I mean, I feel like for the most part, people are insanely stir crazy right now, and they're gonna want to do something to be able to get out of the house once we're able to. I do think movies movies are kind of that thing where we definitely took it for granted for so long, and we did have streaming, but now that it's taken away, it's one of those things where people are like, wow, the feeling of walking through the halls, smelling the popcorn, getting yourself a soda, hearing those advertisements of like the Coca-Cola right before a movie, and then you're like, damn, now I want a Coca-Cola, and I never have a craving for one. They know how to get you, and I feel like that's going to be a place that a lot of people feel like nostalgic for when they were kids. I feel like people are completely going to be willing to dish out the like wherever you're from, like $15-20 to go see one, as opposed to watching it at home, because that's all we've done for the past year plus now.
See, but that's what we say, but that's not what the market tells us. It never tells us that. Every time we say people will choose the premium because of nostalgia and because of it, never happens. That's what's happening to the food industry right now, where everyone's like, people are going to choose the restaurants and do that. They're firing all their restaurant to goes and they're just doing the DoorDash shit. And everyone keeps saying like, oh, it's going to go back to the days where people support businesses. No, they don't. They'll pick the cheapest option, whatever's cheaper. That's what the market has told us. So I don't
like expensive. I don't know what you're talking about. All of that.
No, but it's cheaper than the restaurant option. And that's why
I don't think so.
It is.
With all the fees that they have, obviously you pay like a tip and stuff like that. But regardless, you pay a ton of fees on top of like this service. Plus, you have to tip your driver. I know some people don't, but you should.
Yeah, you should be.
So I think,
but most people don't, though. That's the problem.
And kind of evening it out. Like I'm honest.
It's really interesting how people will kill each other for $2, $3. I don't. Like, I'm the kind of guy who pays $20 to go to ArcLight, because I'd rather do that than save $3 and go to another theater. That's just me, right?
Boy.
But I'm just saying, like, that's not everyone's like me. Like, not everyone cares about movies the way I do. Not everyone has that nostalgia. A lot of people just don't care and will be like, oh, Godzilla is fighting King Kong? Cool. I'm going to watch it on my laptop.
Nah, there's a lot of people.
I'm going to watch it on my phone during the inauguration.
But there's a lot of people who would have liked to have seen Godzilla versus King Kong in big screen. And I will say this, like we talk about how Tenet does whatever, Tenet, killed this or whatever, it still ended up making like $400 million worldwide. So even in a strange pandemic year, like where it can open like next to nowhere, it still made some remnants of money from some crowd somewhere. So I think that goes to show like people are ready. People will be enthusiastic to see movies in some form. That's why drive-ins. I mean, man, when me and Sabrina went to and Destiny went to see Mank, people were packed out. Now, you're
talking about an LA drive-in, bro?
On
an LA drive-in, like
we saw Mank on like a.
That's
weekday.
the most biased. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like talk to me about like Montgomery, Alabama. Then we're talking, bro.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, they're gonna get a movie theater eventually.
Go. Tell me how their drive-ins are doing.
Tell me about how many YouTube comments
probably shit
of people on like Chris Stuxman's channel being like, "Yeah, I drive 6 hours to go to the movie theater because that's the only one that we have." Like,
yeah, but that's such a small amount of people. Like it really is. Like when you see a couple comments in there, it doesn't mean that's the majority.
It might not be the majority, but I think it'll be enough to sustain a movie theater crowd just for long enough, for things to get back to normal. And things will go back to normal. Like I think we're thinking a lot about 2021 and 2022, but 2023 is still down the road. 2024 is still down the road. Eventually, we're not gonna be living in the same exact kind of society anymore.
Yeah, my thing is the problem of everything going back to normal. Yes, you're right. The problem is movie theaters seem to be on the last of that list. Movie theaters, number one, seem to be one of the most dangerous places you can be during a pandemic. So that's issue number one. Issue number two, when you see a lot of people that just don't care and are going to see movies anyways in their local town or whatever, you realize like maybe not everyone has the same amount of care that you do when it comes to COVID. So that's putting yourself even more at risk, not just going to the theaters, but putting yourself in a giant crowd surrounded by people who probably don't care. So all that stuff I really do feel like adds a little bit to it, especially when you have people like, medical experts and Fauci and people else saying like, you can't go to movie theaters. That's a terrible decision. Like, people are going to keep hearing that over and over. And it's like, even when we do get to a safe space, are you really going to choose that, over being safe at home where all your conditions are pre-met and you don't have to worry about strangers? So
I mean, look at like the concert, like the music industry in that way when it comes to concerts and stuff like that, and look at the theater industry. and movies, these are ones that are going to be affected really hard for a long time, but they're going to come back. People are going to want to go to concerts eventually. People are going to want to go see something in a theater eventually. Like it will come back. It's going to be rough and it's going to be a struggle, but like, I truly don't believe, especially with seeing this huge pushback and love for the movie theater over the last few months on social media and things like that. I don't think like movies are dead. Are they changed? Is this going to alter the way that we see the film industry? 100%. But we're going to be able to sit down one day, the three of us, at ArcLight in Hollywood. Andres, your favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
One day we are going to sit down and we are going to be able to watch our Honey Boys or Uncut Gems or things like that. Like we will be able to do that. 1917 again. Like Jojo Rabbit. Like we'll be able to see all those types of films, not just the Black Widows, not just something like a Tenet or a Dune. It will happen eventually.
And
I agree, but I just don't feel like it'll be this year, if that makes sense.
And by the way,
I agree.
And listen, and you're talking about Fauci saying this, Fauci saying that. Yeah. Fauci also said that it wasn't safe to wear a mask. You remember that? Fauci.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Fauci said.
I agree.
In the beginning, they said that it wasn't safe to fly airplanes. Now, literally in interviews, Fauci's going around saying airplanes one of the safest ways to go.
Yep.
Like he's saying,
it's all.
Yeah. So I don't know what are we gonna believe now? They could. What if they put in the same like recyclable air thingy that they put in the movie in the airplanes that they put in the movie theater? Maybe that would be a good way to like curb this thing. Have they really even put any resources into researching this specifically for movie theaters specifically for what's going on now? I don't think they even care. I don't think they even looked at this stuff.
That's kind of my point. My point is that the fact that like on the last of that list is going to be movie theaters. Like you have planes ahead of it, you have stores ahead of it, but movie theaters are kind of last. Like you're saying, RB3, like all that stuff, people don't care because they're like, no way. Movie theaters are probably the last worst thing you can possibly do during a pandemic.
Honestly.
So why would we invest into that if that's not necessarily the most required thing you can do versus gyms, versus planes, versus food industry shit? You know, like that shit is where you're putting money in, not in movie theaters.
I'm just saying,
that's why streaming is taking off.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of people that really stopped caring. It's the same people that have been on social media and they're like, flatten the curve. And then they're at parties or doing something like that. And they were saying flatten the curve a few months ago. So I think people are getting stir crazy. I mean, I understand. I don't do that, but I understand the craziness. Like obviously all of us are at home. All of us are chilling and it's been rough. It's been a rough ass year doing so.
You said it, Sabrina. You're going to my next point. I think we're reaching to a point, Sabrina, and you nailed it, where people, even the people who care about this the most, are going more and more like to what RB3 was saying, where it's like, you know what? Like even Fauci doesn't know what he's talking about. Like who gives a shit? They're starting to care less and less and less and less. And it's getting to a point where I really do feel like by March, if you're in LA, like watch out, bro. If you think like December was popping, like March is gonna be lit because no one cares anymore. Like no one gives a crap. Like even people will just are so over it to the point now that even the people who really did care the most are starting to be like, you know what? I gotta live my life. I'm gonna die. Like my brain is gonna explode. I feel so depressed and alone and weirded out, and it's just too much for me to handle. And I really do feel like most people will start to not care. I do feel like that's gonna happen. I think you're totally right, Sabrina.
Well, also, I was just like, I've been driving to like specific places like grocery stores, things like that. I went to the Hollywood area to pick up food one time, and there's like clearly tourists that are walking around Hollywood in the middle of COVID. Like they're very clearly, obviously tourists. Like nobody else would be doing this. And they traveled to go see Hollywood during a time where literally it's completely dead and everything is closed. It is the wildest thing to see. So I'm like, yeah, people are continuing to travel and not really care as much. People are going to see friends and family and things like that. They're not letting a lot hold them back. I think movies will kind of be the same way. Within the next year, I do believe that people are going to be pretty comfortable going to a movie and kind of taking that slight risk to finally leave the house.
It's funny.
I think most. Yeah.
Oh no, I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say, Sabrina. Yeah, I work on, the job I work at is on Hollywood and Highland, so literally right on the corner of like the Hollywood like Walk of Fame or whatever. And for a fact, if you're over there, like that's the jankiest area of LA, like in the entire world. Like that's the absolute worst tourist attraction ever created in mankind. Like it's the most disgusting street avenue place in the entire planet, and if you're over there, like it's just a bunch of tourists, right? And they're all there and they're not even wearing masks. They don't care. They're just walking around. They're taking pictures. They're for the gram. They got the selfie sticks out, and kudos to them. They probably traveled on like $100 flight to get there and like really had a good time. But then it's also was perpetrating the problem. It's also what's keeping us back from getting forward and moving forward and getting able to get ahead of this thing. So I don't know. I mean, but to that extent though, I think that just shows there are a certain amount of people who are willing to spend money regardless of if that is going to be safe to themselves or to others. So
Yeah, but I feel like that has a lot to do with like political perspectives and ideologies and shit like that too.
I mean,
I think part of it.
You see black people out there. You see all peoples out there, like all kinds of people.
But I feel like yeah, and a lot of them are
There's
just
everyone.
Yeah.
TikTokers. My God, like
Yeah.
TikTokers literally are
went
breaking
to
the world.
Around Christmas time, I went to the Americana to return something, and there was people, like hordes of people out in the open filming TikToks. I didn't know if that was like a hotspot or there was like a specific meetup, like TikTok, whatever. But you see all the phones set up on like the ground or whatever, and then everybody's just like dancing. It's crazy.
It's terrible.
Literally, it's nuts. And that's the thing, is that like, regardless, people are going to do this soon. People are getting sick of it. Hopefully when it actually is safer, once this opens, I have full faith that people will be back in the theater. Maybe not even at like small capacity and things like that. Because if people are spending the money to come to Los Angeles and walk around Hollywood, even though it's completely dead and there's nothing to enjoy about it, they will spend that money to go to a theater, even if it's a little bit less of an experience, like lower capacity, things like that.
Yeah, I think people are starting to get over it, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but we will find out. Obviously, I still feel like a lot of it is pretty negative. We have PC in the chat. We have Fabrico in the chat. We have Ben Goddard in the chat.
Hey, Ben Goddard in the chat. What's up, brother?
Big Mo Podcast is in the chat saying, yo, what's up? Thank you so
Mo.
much, guys, for joining us. If you just started joining us now. Let's move on to what you wanted to talk about, RB3, which is your Amazon Prime Tenet.
Oh, yes. So tomorrow, we are bringing y'all a very special episode of the Meaning of Podcast. That's right. We are talking the meaning of Tenet. It's very exciting for me because I'm not gonna lie. I've actually I saw the movie in theaters and I enjoyed it. Drove out to Vegas to see it, and then I saw it again at the drive-in and left early, so it wasn't that great. But I'm not gonna lie. On my third, fourth, fifth, and sixth watch, I've actually come to like really, really, really enjoy it, like a whole lot. So I'm really excited for tomorrow's episode to drop. I think we tried to explain like what was going on. I don't know if we did a good
Cinema
job.
Gorilla donated $5.
Cinema Gorilla.
One word. Tenet. Tenet is my movie of the year. It can be as deep or as superficial as you want. Anyone of all ages can watch. And no problematic imagery or concepts. I'm glad I stan the Nolan brothers with Westworld 2.
Yeah. Nah, I feel that. I feel it. Westworld too, huh? That's a good.
We live in a Twilight world, baby.
Yeah, that's a good one. So that's the thing. I really ended up enjoying it, but I thought it was funny because when I went to Amazon, because we're prepping for the podcast, obviously. I went to Amazon Prime to purchase it because we're all connected to my Amazon Prime, and then I actually scrolled down to the Black Cinema section, and it was there, and it kind of raised an interesting question to me, which I went to Twitter to pontificate with about. Is Tenet Black cinema? And it's only John David Washington who's the only black guy in this entire movie. There's also one other Indian character, and I need to get the actor's name because I'm losing
Himesh
that.
Patel.
Yes. But those are the only two men of color in this movie, and it's obviously written and directed by Christopher Nolan. So part of me wondered what does this count as black cinema? So I did a Twitter poll about this very subject, and wow, will I tell you, the leanings of this poll really went in one direction. I asked, would you consider Tenet black cinema since John David Washington is the lead? Yes. Hashtag strong black lead received 20% of the vote, and no, he's the only one received 80% of the vote out of 650 votes. So I think it's pretty handily that, at least to the public perspective, that Tenet is not black cinema.
What about you, man?
What about me? What's my take on it? No, I wouldn't consider it black cinema either. I don't think it necessarily has anything. It doesn't really necessarily add anything to the black conversation. But I do think I put the hashtag strong black lead thing in there as a kind of a funny joke, but I actually do think there's some merit to having like to this idea of like John David Washington being like the leading action hero in this movie, right? And if you watch the entire movie, he's never really has like any sort of like adverse like kind of struggles that are like stereotypical or anything like that. He's just a normal kind of action movie, almost the action star, almost to the same level of like James Bond or whatever. In fact, when me and Destiny actually watched it in the drive-in, she made the joke of like, yeah, this is probably the movie Denzel wanted like 20 years ago, honestly, with him driving the tall white model girl in the boat, you know, and doing all the action scenes. That's dope. So it's dope seeing that. But and there's also another argument too, right? And we're going to talk about, we're going to have a throwback episode of our Michael Bay episode coming up soon. But Michael Bay famously said that even though, you know, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith were in Bad Boys, he didn't want it to be like a black movie. Like he pretty much cast everybody else in the original Bad Boys to be like non-black characters because he didn't want it to be a black movie. But we embrace it as black cinema because it's something that's cultural, because it's the leading stars. But that being said, I don't consider Tenet black cinema at all. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I just feel like we have Christopher Nolan, and I just wouldn't say a Christopher Nolan film should be considered black cinema unless he decides to do something maybe completely out of what he typically does, but not with this film. I just think the casting was just choosing the best actor for the role, and I think they did a great job with that with John David Washington. He's somebody who should always be a leading man. I love the casting of like Himesh Patel. Obviously, we saw him in Yesterday. Yes. Didn't love the film, but really liked his performance and thought he was great. And then it was cool to see him in this one too because he looked more grizzled. It obviously was something completely different. Mm-hmm. So we love to see it. But of course, we have like we said, those are it. Those are only two like people of color that are cast in this film. I definitely wouldn't consider this to be black cinema in any way, shape, or form. Yeah,
I don't think it is either.
It's just funny because we've I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on Jess, but no. It's funny because we talk about like the black cinema categories on all these streaming services are always like slave movies and like the tragedy porn and all like the worst kind of stuff. It's just funny that this is the one kind of standout, like in the pool was just Tenet, you know, just Tenet. And it wasn't even like deep. It was literally like black cinema. Then like, as you scroll down to the category, it was like the first one. And then it had like Do the Right Thing. And then like the other like traditional pieces. But I don't know. I think it's funny. I almost wonder if Amazon Prime will still have it that way now that we're having this conversation. But tweet at Amazon Prime. Somebody clip this out and tweet on this clip and let them know what we think of their black cinema category.
Yeah, what do you think of other streaming services in their black cinema category, RB3? Do you think Netflix has a good one?
Netflix Netflix actually has like multiple ones. Like they have like different breakdowns. And actually a lot of them do have multiple different like black romance, whatever, sports movies. The Disney Plus one is actually pretty thorough. They got that one, what's the one, the one DCOM original where they have like the African girl who's like
up and away?
No.
The Color Purple.
It's Color. It's Color something.
Color. Oh my God. Yes. It's a different one where she goes. Oh my God.
And then they
Someone
say
in the chat,
it's
let
like
us know.
And I think it's literally the only Disney Channel movie where they say the N-word. I think it's literally the only one in history where that happens.
They say it in that movie?
Yeah, they do. It's iconic. It's iconic.
They say it.
I added to the list. Added to the
Color
list.
of Friendship.
Color of Friendship. Yes.
I do remember that one.
Yes,
I do remember it.
That's a sweet movie. So that one's pretty good. I honestly think a lot of these streaming platforms are really trying to make it the priority. And I mean, I think that's why One Night in Miami, I think, was dope. Seeing that released on Amazon Prime this past weekend was amazing. I think, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom from Netflix is getting a lot of critical acclaim, rightfully so. I think all these streaming services are at least trying to make an effort to do something original and dynamic with their storytelling.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully we'll see more of it for sure. I'm so curious what's going to happen in award season. Let's end on this. What do you guys feel like is going to happen as far as the kind of movies that are getting a lot of buzz? I know you're pretty a part of it right now, Sabrina.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of interesting choices. Like I said, we're not really going to see the norm. I am excited to see something like when we're talking about...
Big Mo donated $5.
Thank you, Big
What's
Mo.
up, gang? I never get to watch you guys live or ever for that matter. So much content out there. But I decided to finally pop in. You're all great. By the way, RB3, I finally made the podcast and the first episode is out now.
Oh, word, Big Mo. I gotta check that out. Yes. Shout out to Big Mo, the Big Mo podcast. I'm definitely gonna be giving it a listen. Also, you know what? I'm not gonna say because I don't know if Dorian wants me to say it or not. But me and Dorian got something very, very, very cool coming out very, very soon. Very, very soon.
Yeah. So I basically what I think when we're looking into the Best Actor and Best Actress like nominees, I think we're seeing something really interesting where obviously we have incredible picks like Frances McDormand, something that's expected. We have Viola Davis, who did incredible in Ma Rainey's. But for like Best Actor, we have like Delroy Lindo for The Five Bloods. That came out a long time ago. He picked up steam back then and it still continued. I definitely see him as like one of the front runners for that one. And I think when we're talking about Best Picture, there's so many interesting films that are added to the mix that are not what we typically see with the Oscars. I think this is going to be so interesting to see how this all plays out because we have our stuff like Promising Young Woman. We have Nomadland. I don't think the Academy is going to make the same mistake as making like Trial of Chicago 7, like a Green Book or like something like that, like the winner, because we had a really, really great year of cinema and there's just so much more coming. And I think we're going to be surprised, and I'm excited to kind of cover that all with you guys. I mean, when we're talking about the best movies of the year, we've seen a ton that we just keep talking about. We've seen like ones like Minari, and I know Minari is put into like the international category instead, and people definitely had, because that's not right at all. It's an American story. So of course we're going to have those types of situations, but I think overall it'll actually be something interesting this year versus what we normally see.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think so mainly because I really do feel like the theater experience was kind of lost in the whole thing, where a lot of people might create buzz in a different way. I feel like Chadwick Boseman is going to create a lot of buzz, and I think he might win it, if I'm being honest. His only other competition.
Between him and Delroy.
Which one's Del Rey? Who's Del Rey?
Delroy Lindo.
For The Five Bloods.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I think they're competing. They might be competing in different categories.
That's what I was going to say
I think they're both Best Actor.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Really?
I'm like 99% sure that they're pushing both of them for Best Actor.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chadwick might take that over him, over Steven Yeun, over Riz Ahmed is getting a ton of love for Sound of Metal. So I think those guys are kind of. But those movies are kind of odd movies, right? That's why I kind of like it, because it's Riz Ahmed, Steven Yeun, Chadwick Boseman, and then you said what homie's name?
Delroy Lindo.
Delroy Lindo. But two of those guys are my age, so that's already like so different. You don't have a lot of young guys getting nominated for best. I mean, we had Daniel Kaluuya that one time, but Steven Yeun and Riz Ahmed are like my age. They're really young homies. To be nominated for an Oscar would be kind of crazy. That's really nuts. I would love to see Never Rarely get some love. I think that'd be kind of cool. I would also love for...
I see that in the screenplay category, get love in there. You know?
Yeah, also Promising Young Woman. I still feel like when it comes to performances, obviously there's so many great female performances, but which one stands out the most to you besides maybe Carey Mulligan? Is that your name, right? Carey Mulligan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Viola Davis, Carey Mulligan, Frances McDormand, Sydney Flanagan from Never Rarely Sometimes Always was one that stood out, but
I still feel like she's better than... I think she's better than like half of these nominees, if I'm being real.
But that's the best part about us doing the Cuddy Awards, is that we can show love to the people that are totally going to be skipped out on. Another thing that sticks out of, like, I'm thinking of Ending Things, I think could nab definitely like an adapted screenplay. I would love to see that get some love. But yeah, I really like having like Sound of Metal, Nomadland, Another Round with Mads Mikkelsen is in the conversation. Like just interesting choices like that versus what we typically see. All the actors you listed out, they all look so different. It's not the typical lineup that we always see with like, it's Gary Oldman, it's Anthony Hopkins. It's people that we like expect all the time.
Yeah. Actually,
even though they're great.
Take it back.
But Anthony Hopkins
is going to win it. Yeah. Because he's apparently doing a movie about being an old man, and people love that shit.
Yeah, people love it.
They're connected to that.
People love that shit. And apparently he's getting all the buzz, and it's going to be him to win it and all that. So I take it all back. It's going to be him. It's going to be old man Hopkins.
I don't think so. Not in a year like this.
I could see, you know what, though? I can definitely see them knocking off Daryl Roy or... something else interesting for like a Gary Oldman or something like that. Just something that's like familiar to him. You know what I mean? Like I could definitely see them knocking off something interesting.
The first two that came to my mind were Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins, and I forgot that they both did films this year that definitely are probably going to
win.
Yeah. If I'm being honest though, if I'm being real, if I'm being super real, I'd give Sacha Baron Cohen a nomination too. If I'm being real for Borat 2, because it was phenomenal to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but then again, I'm pretty picky when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't feel like anything was that impressive. The most impressive performances I've seen this year, and to be fair, I haven't seen that many, was still Sydney Flanagan and probably Julia Gardner for The Assistant.
See, I liked Julia Gardner a lot in The Assistant. I just didn't care for the movie as much. I liked it and I enjoyed it, but it's not something I'm going to tell everybody to go check out. Versus like another underrated gem is Black Bear with Aubrey Plaza. I think this is one of the best performances that we've seen this year. This is this like weird trippy movie that I have no idea what the hell is going on. I would love to talk about it with you guys in the future, but she genuinely gives the best performance. It's like, I can't say anything about the movie at all. I don't want to spoil it, but she's playing like different characters basically. Like she's really going like 100% with this. So I think there's a lot of underrated ones. I don't see them kicking off Delroy Lindo. I think he has to get a nomination. I think his performance was one of the best of this year.
I think so too. I mean, I think it would be probably my favorite, but I could see the Academy just being weird about it. Damn. Or I could see them thinking, you know, oh, we got one Netflix, you know, Chadwick Boseman, you know, like how we're going to distribute the love. I don't know how they would do something like that. But in the actress category, I would love to see Elizabeth Moss, Invisible Man, some consideration, serious consideration. Not looking like it's going to get any movements or in the ways, but I'd like that to get some consideration.
I think it might be too heavy on the competition side there when it comes to because Frances McDormand's apparently going to run away with it. Yeah. And there's some other actresses in there that really deliver. Yeah, I mean, we're in a world though where Lupita Nyong'o was nominated, and neither was Toni Collette for Hereditary. So it's like I don't think it's going to happen. Or your girl
Florence Pugh.
Or Florence Pugh, yeah.
Best actress.
She did get nominated though, but not for that movie. I just don't feel like that's necessarily gonna work out. Yeah, I still gotta see a ton of movies, guys, if I'm being honest. I gotta catch up on a lot.
Hear me out. Maria Bakalova for Borat 2, Best Supporting Actress. That gotta get a nomination. Come on now. She got grabbed by Rudy Giuliani. Like, is that not a nomination worthy? Like,
That's a little weird to say that's nomination worthy, man. I don't know if you want to put that out there.
It's not. I mean, people. Listen. Like Frances McDormand went out there and traveled with a bunch of nuns or whatever, or I'm sorry, nomads. But I mean, come on. I mean, she really put it out there too. So I mean, I give that a nomination.
I mean, she's basically an unknown. She put herself out there completely. She's putting herself into real world situations, sticking in character. I do think she should get shown some love for sure.
Yeah.
I think she will. Yeah, I think it's not too far fetched. I think is what it is. Is there one specific category you guys want to give a shout out to before we peace out for the night?
The category.
Adapted screenplay, I think is really interesting. I think having I'm thinking of Ending Things, and adapted also includes plays. So we have One Night in Miami, Ma Rainey's. I think that's a pretty good lineup so far. And there's a few more that I'm just not thinking of right now, but those are heavy hitters.
Well, I mean,
how about you, Orbit 3?
Well, I mean, obviously next week, not this week on the mini of, because this week we have Tenet. But the week after that, we're going to be talking about our favorite directors of 2020. And I think what's notable is that there's probably going to be a lot more choices for women directors that we could pick from, right? I think the same thing with the Academy. I think the Academy fails to nominate at least 2 women directors this year for Best Director. They're losing out. They're losing out on the prime opportunity because it's been an epic year when it comes to that representation.
I feel like we say that every year, and every year it doesn't happen. But at the same time, it's true, right? Every year women make some awesome movies. But I feel like this year, no one can ignore Chloe Zhao. No one. Yeah. That's facts. And then Regina King, I think I like One Night in Miami more than anyone that I've seen, because I just adored that movie. I really didn't think I would love it that much, but I was like, oh my God, this movie's incredible. So I'm very partial towards Regina King as well. So those are 2 right there for me that are up there. You also have isn't the lady who did The Assistant, the lady who did First Cow? Didn't First Cow was a lady? You still have Promising Young Woman.
Promising Young Woman.
So there's a few in there that are also female directed that could possibly get some love.
Just whatever they do, don't nominate Aaron Sorkin. Please don't nominate Aaron Sorkin for
really?
Chicago 7. Don't. No.
Oh, I was thinking of Mank, but that's wrong.
No. Mank. That's the thing.
Mank is Fincher,
and unfortunately,
Fincher.
And I'm basing a lot of my analysis on the great Clinton Davis from Award Circuit / Variety, and his predictions. And it looks like he got Fincher not even as part of the top 5. The top 5 that he has here is number one Chloe Zhao, number 2 Aaron Sorkin, number 3 the fellow who directed Minari. Number 4, One Night in Miami, Regina King, and number 5, Spike Lee with The Five Bloods. Now, I'd love to see all of those except for Aaron Sorkin and switch that out with Fincher for me. Then I would think that's the perfect set of nominations right there.
I would 100% put Fincher over Sorkin.
Yeah.
I don't want either of them. I feel like there was more interesting directors this year, genuinely. There's so many I can list off, and obviously we'll get into that next week a little bit on the meeting.
Yeah.
But another thing since you mentioned One Night in Miami, Leslie Odom Jr.'s performance as Sam Cooke was incredible. Yeah. I would love to see that get some love.
Yeah, he melted into that role for sure. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I didn't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. Leslie Odom Jr. best song for his song at the end of the credits that plays at the end of the credits for One Night in Miami.
Yeah.
That's my bold prediction for this year's Oscars. I heard that song and I was like, this is a nice, cool, uplifting song that I really enjoyed. I don't know, maybe I was caught up in the moment, but I really loved it. And I'm a sucker for that homie's voice. I think he sings so good.
Cinema Gorilla got it. The song by Doja Cat for Birds of Prey.
Oh yeah,
Boss Bitch,
yeah.
or whatever it is.
No.
Everybody's getting it wrong, man. It's that Travis Scott song from Tenet. That's the best. That's the Oscar.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, just the screeching. Oh, I love it. Ooh.
I like that part, but I don't like any other part. I feel like Yeah, I mean, I actually think it's pretty loaded this year for best song. I think there might be a few that are kind of fun in there that we probably haven't thought of.
Yeah, what about best original score? Do you see Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross getting double nominated?
Dude, Soul to me was the best score of the year. Soul and Tenet, I think it's between Soul, because Tenet is sick. It's so good. But Soul just blew me away. I would give it to a slight edge to Soul, but if you ask me like in a month or two, it might be Tenet.
PC donated $10. Hope things open up soon. Meanwhile, thanks for entertaining us. Drinks on me when it's safe again.
Thank you, PC. Thank you.
PC.
Thank you.
What about you guys for score?
I would personally put my personal number one would be Soul. And then I really dug the score for Mank too. That's what I'm saying. I love to see that like
it was good.
Nomination.
It was really good. It was really good for sure. I just thought Soul was crazy.
But
it was just insane.
Apparently, at least according to Variety and Clayton Davis, News of the World is apparently like the number one contender, I guess, because it got like James Howard Newton, I guess, post. I guess what do they call those? Like after death.
Possibly.
Is that the play?
News of the World. That's what
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Yeah.
Oh, that's the Western Tom Hanks movie that I keep seeing ads for.
Yeah.
I have never heard anything about this movie, but I also keep seeing ads for it.
Yeah, and it
nothing
looks
about it.
not good, but apparently it's good.
Yeah.
The trailers make it look bad. Like I was like, this looks like a terrible movie, but apparently it's really good. I liked his last movie, and it's really intense, but it's still really well done. The movie about the terrorist act that happened in I forget where, but
that's all his movies, terrorist movies.
It is, but it's pretty intense, but it's actually really well done. Someone in the chat will get it.
The one that's the plane one was
no.
Oh no,
Sully?
It's the Netflix
always
one.
I saw there was like a weird, like an Onion article or something like that, and it was like Tom Hanks will not stop until he's played every last American.
Yeah,
like that's like all he does now. I
think it's called like it's a date. It's like July 7th or something like that.
I don't know.
Either way, we'll see what happens with those movies, but. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching First Cut Live today. This was a lot of fun. Obviously, you can check us out individually. Sabrina, where can everyone find you?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SabrinaXMonica, and then also on Twitter at SabrinaOnFilm.
RB3.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DirectorRB3. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
I'm at Squad Leader Race, guys, and this Sunday, get ready for more battles, more wars, more one-on-ones. We're going to be talking about a talk on Titan. We have some guests coming on this Sunday, so make sure you guys tune in for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ben Goddard and I are going to get into the episode. Also, make sure you guys join our Patreon if you haven't already. That's a fun way to stay tuned. I'm going to be on the Discord as much as I can so I can talk to you guys, so make sure you guys at least subscribe to that tier. Also, make sure you follow us out on social media at First Cut TMO. That's the best way to connect with us as well. Like this video, comment if you like it. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought. Either way, guys, for the First Cut crew, we are peacing out. Peace. What's good, y'all? That's here.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's RB.
This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. With the 4/5 divide you in half. You getting at me equals a club.